Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Sisters of Legacy. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to run our intro and we will be right back. All right, everyone. Welcome again. We're going to do our introduction. We have Shanetta McNair.
Hey.
Tangela Terrell.
Good evening. How's everyone?
And Katrina Taylor.
Hi.
Listen, I'm going to get y'all some pom-poms or something so y'all get.
Woohoo!
See, there you go. And my name is Samantha Walker. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate you taking out your time to be in the room. Hi, Chicago Sally. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we are going to jump right in on our topic. And I just want to say, and I'm probably going to say several times tonight because I don't want anybody to misunderstand. We do not bash men. Any conversation we have is not to belittle men or put men down. Our conversations are solely based on empowering women and changing the conversation surrounding women and how you. That is always our goal. It's always to be uplifting. So I just want to make sure that's understood because I don't want anybody to misunderstand anything that we say. We are not putting anyone down. We are lifting up. Hey, look who it is. Hello, Ephraim. Welcome. Let's hope you behave yourself. I'd hate to have to block you. Okay, our question for tonight, or our discussion, is going to be based around this question. And I would love for any men in the comments to please share your input. You know, what you think and how you view us matters. And we'd like to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. So our question is the woman's role underrated or misunderstood? Good evening, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so before we start, I did want to, I know a lot of times words are used incorrectly. So I wanted to read the actual definition of the words. So that way, we could have a clear understanding of the actual definition and not just the way we use it. So, underrated in the dictionary means not rated or valued highly enough. Another definition was to underestimate the extent, value, or importance of. Another definition was has not received the merit, recognition, or praise it deserves. Hey, G Money, thank you for joining us. Are y'all talking about patriarchy? Nope. We're strictly what the question is. That's what we're sticking to. We're not trying to, put anything down. We just want to uplift women and talk about how we're viewed or how maybe sometimes we feel in certain situations. So I also went through the definition of misunderstood, and it is incorrectly interpreted or understood. And G Money says, yes, the woman's role is underrated. Okay. G Money, tell us why you think that. So did any of you ladies want to start? No.
I think I think I think the essence of women, mothers, wives, I think we all can attest to the fact that if it wasn't for our mothers or grandmothers or aunts, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think everyone agrees to that because you hear it. You hear songs about mamas, you hear songs about, grandmothers. But I think what is really misunderstood is the woman's struggle and what it takes to have to birth the nation, carry, protect, nurture, and then create greatness. And I think that's when that misunderstanding comes in. When we, on one hand, we put women on a pedestal, we're getting something from them. But when it's time to understand them, then we hear the labels. Then we don't really quite understand the complexities that make up, especially the Black woman, and all of the different nuances that comes with being a Black woman.
Okay.
I think that this whole topic comes to light, and I think nowadays it's a little more seen and spoke about, but when there used to be divorces, and a woman would say, "Oh, but I helped put him through school, and now he's walking away, and now he has all this," and her contribution wasn't given a monetary value. It is now, and it makes sense that she, while he went to school, took care of the kids, took care of the home. Maybe she helped him in his business, and that role of holding him down so he could, excel and make himself better, that wasn't always valued. And so now, even in the law, like if you're going through a divorce, that has a monetary value. There's like a whole system of how those things and how her contribution helped him to get where he is. And so now she gets a part of his, his business. Because if she hadn't been there holding it down for him, he wouldn't have achieved what he achieved. So the woman's role is very. I'm sorry, I was reading the comment. I'm sorry about that. But yes, in that way, I think as far as being not valued, I think in your definition as being underrated, there is a value, even a monetary value, to what we do. And a lot of times I know we'll see like memes that says, women are the CEO of your home, and it breaks it down of what the titles and roles would be had you had to manage all these things outside of the home, and then making that equating that to what you do inside the home. So even if you work outside the home, all the things you do inside the home, or even as a wife, you can be paid as a counselor, because you're sitting here, what I'm saying, you're supporting him, you're counseling him, and nobody's, he's not paying you by the hour for that, but there's value to all that women do.
Okay, so Taiwan's comment, he said, I think pre-1990s, the elder women solidified their spot and left nothing to be misunderstood. That role had definitely changed. I will say, like when I was looking up the definition, I also looked up the role of women in society. And of course, over time, definitions change. So looking at the initial definition of it, yes, Taiwan, I totally agree with what you're saying. Pre 1990s, the women of the past, like their role was very specific. You know, well, let's go back further than 1990s. Like, back in the day, a woman's role was specific. You just took care of the home. That was your role. That didn't change. You took care of everything from the front door, to the back, whatever that entailed for your home. And yes, over time, it has changed. And I think that's because we've changed it and expectations have changed. And also the needs of people have changed. The more things that are introduced to society, the more the needs change. The more things that are available, the more desires change. So I believe that some of the things that have changed what a woman's role is. G Money said we are reinforcing bad behavior among our Black men. I'm not sure. Men are displaying more feminine traits and women have to inherit more masculine traits. Okay. Roles have changed greatly. Men have to understand and support that. That hasn't changed much though, right? True. Expectations have changed. I will say, so all right. So there's several roles that a woman can have. As a woman, just a single woman, and it's just you, your role is going to be distinctly different from the role of a wife. If you're single, if you're a girlfriend, your role is distinctly different from the role of a wife. At the end of the day, you are solely responsible for yourself and your own well-being. How you choose to, tackle those responsibilities is a personal thing. And then, your role as a wife, depending on who you're married to, is going to be different as well. My role as a wife to Anthony is very different than, let's just say, Tangela's role as a wife to Ephraim. So, we couldn't really look at her and I and compare the two. So I think, all those things have to be taken into consideration. Like you have to understand, where you are in the process. If you're single, it's going to be different. If you're a wife, it's different. I did look at some things, I was saying as a daughter, according to definition, your role as a single woman and as a daughter, your role is to take care of your parents. These are definitions that I did a little bit of research, a little bit. Of course, it says once you're married, your role is to take care of your family. And the definition actually said to put yourself second to your family.
Mm.
And when the interesting part is when I looked up the role for a man, it did not say that is his responsibility to put himself second to his family. And I found that so interesting.
What book are you using for these definitions?
Exactly.
Of course, naturally I didn't use the Bible. I was just, looking up different definitions, different dictionaries, just, looking up different years. He said, is the woman's role the same across the board or does it change by race?
That's interesting.
I think I will say it may change. I'm not going to say so much by race, but by your surroundings. It changes according to your dynamic.
I think culture plays a great role in the role of the woman, whether it's a daughter, a wife, or a mother. I think culture plays a big role in that, and just kind of the way various cultures expect women to be and to behave. And that over the last few years, there has been, not few years, but few decades, I guess, there have been significant changes in what I would say the American woman here in the US. I think the dynamic has changed for us, but I think that there are some cultures that still even kind of like they're kind of nestled within our cultures that still kind of follow the old school and traditional ways even.
I agree.
Let's see. Ashley said, "Hey, Ashley, welcome." It says it's for sure changes by race. G Money said the masculine, feminine comment was based on traditionally accepted gender roles. Do you think we have lost setting expectations in our relationship?
See, the thing that's a good question. But the thing about that is that we set expectations, but we don't always communicate expectations. And sometimes those expectations can be based on what our friends may say, what we grew up seeing, but we don't always communicate that when we enter into relationships. So then now you have somebody who you're in conflict because this person is not living up to those unspoken expectations, and they have no reason, no clue as to, okay, well, why are you always mad at me? I'm doing what I think is right. But I think having an expectation is not the problem per se, but it's when we're in relationship and we don't communicate it. So you're not even giving me a fighting chance to at least discuss, okay, well, I can or cannot live up to those expectations.
Yeah.
Okay. Taiwan said role is subjective. The role is going to take on new meaning and responsibilities in different race, cultural, socioeconomic background, etc. Exactly. Like it's going to look different in every woman. There's never going to be one singular thing across the board. It's always going to look different depending on who you're speaking to. And I think some of the problem is the preconceived notions that people have that all women should be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where most of the misunderstanding come in, that all women should be one thing. And it's almost impossible because we're all made uniquely different. Like we all, even all Black women, we might all have, some pigmentation, going on in different shades, but we're not even all the same shade. We're not the same shade. We're not the same height. We're not the same build. So of course, we're all going to be different from the outside in. It's all going to be different. You might say women have had to take on more. Times have changed. It's a good thing. Okay, I guess that would depend on who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a good thing.
That could be.
Yeah. Again, that's another one of those things that would be specific to your situation or your household. When you have that question or that statement. He said Black women have a lot on their plate, and the expectation is that you handle it all and be happy. Absolutely. I will agree. Ephraim, that is the expectation that women, we just gonna strong Black woman, they're gonna work it out, they're gonna figure it out. And I absolutely believe they think we're just supposed to be happy. When you get angry, oh, you're too loud. When you yell, you got too much attitude. It's like you're just supposed to take it, accept it, and smile all the time. They said, right. Setting expectations is what was meant. And I said, causing bad behavior and blood among Black men. Okay, she said, true. It is, we have no choice but to get it done and watch it fall.
Watch it fall. Or watch it.
You mean maybe watch it fail? I don't know.
Or watch it fall.
Get it done or watch it fall.
Or watch it fail.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Or watch it fall. I will say I don't always know if that's the truth. That we have no choice but to get it done. I mean, I think, again, that's specific to your situation, because I've said before, I think sometimes as women, we're juggling some things and we pick up extra things and we juggling those too. And it's not always things that we have to pick up. Sometimes it's, somebody else is not doing it the way we think they should. Sometimes it's not being done in the time we should, and we pick up things unnecessarily. And then, on the flip side of that, then there is more anger at other people and resentment, and you can become bitter because you're carrying a weight, that was never yours to carry. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm saying it's very specific because even on this panel, we all have very different, lives. So some of us, don't have all the choices that others have. I just want to make that plain. I don't want to make it seem like, you just doing stuff because you have to. It is very specific to your situation and your life dynamic. I think asking your mate to help with responsibilities would help. Just a thought. Well, I'm sure sometimes asking for help, if you have a mate, can be a productive way not to carry as much. If that option is available and you can ask for help, I think you absolutely should. It's never hurts to ask for help. Do you find yourself always trying to save the day? Trina?
Like Cheryl said, sometimes you just don't have a choice but to get it done, because if it's all on you and all the responsibility, household, everything is on you as a single parent, or even as a single woman, if it's all on you, you have to get it done or watch it fail. And you don't want it to fail. So you do everything you can to get it done and make sacrifices to get it done. Sometimes, and especially when you have children, you have to get it done for them. That's just the bottom line. So like Cheryl said, she said she's speaking as a single mother, and so am I, and sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. If that means staying up late, working another job. And sometimes you can call on somebody, call on a friend. Can you run, pick up Johnny for me? And then next week I'll do the carpool. You do what you can and you get it done for your kids, for yourself.
I think sometimes we put when we have all of the responsibility on ourselves to take care of certain things or to get certain things accomplished or certain things done, we don't have the luxury of not keeping it all together or not saving the day. You have to kind of be that person in many instances, because if it's not you, then who? If it's not your job to do it, then whose job is it to get that done? Even when we have, so to speak, gender roles or certain roles in our relationships and even in our marriages, maybe this isn't his thing or his strong suit, and it is my strong suit. It is my thing. And it just so happens that this is the area that I'm responsible for. I do have to get it done and make sure that it's accomplished. So sometimes it's not necessarily not wanting to ask for help, but sometimes it's just your responsibility to get it done, be it in a relationship or if you're single, if you're parenting, by yourself, or if you're co-parenting with another person. There are things that are just ours to get done, and we just kind of have to do it. And I think that goes both ways. I honestly do. I think it goes both ways. Are there people who walk away from their responsibilities of both genders every day? Absolutely. I think that there are women that walk away from responsibilities and just say, I'm just not doing it. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And I think there are men that do it too. And, the responsible person is the one who kind of picks up the slack when somebody else is not doing their part.
Okay. Ephraim said, where did you each learn your role or expectation from? Mom, Bible, TV, etc. Tangela, you want to answer that one first?
Um, obviously, my first interaction is with my mother. And then, also the women, well, my mother, grandmother, aunts, um, and then seeing the women in the church. That laid out the foundation in my mind, the role of the woman in the home, in the family, in the church, things like that. So that's where I had my first expectation or my first frame of reference.
Okay. Trina?
I think that I think my expectation or role, what I learned was just from tradition. Also, again, what I've seen in my home, but it's just tradition. Um, Woman have the baby, clean the house, cook. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, when I was married, um, my husband did, he'd help cook, but he wasn't that good of a cook. He was good at eggs. So when it was time to make eggs, he was in there making eggs. But other than that, not so much on the cooking. But he was a very good father. So he would get your car ready in the morning. He wasn't good dressing her. I mean, as far as he wanted me to buy her he wanted me to buy her sweatsuits, because then that way it was two pieces, and those two pieces went together.
They
He
go
had to think
together.
about matching nothing, right? So these two, I don't have to make an outfit. Just give me a sweatsuit. Give me just the two pieces. But he would do it, but just make it easy for me. So, but just as far as expectations, I think I've said before, he wanted to pay the bills. And I had just started doing it because I just kind of fell into that role. But then he was just like, well, I want to do it. I guess it was a man thing. And I was like, fine, that's one less thing that's on my plate that I have to do. You know what I'm saying? So as far as roles, it's just like whoever does the best job at it. It's kind of how it played out. And I just happen to be a better cook, except for eggs. So.
All right. Shanetta?
Mine is not so traditional. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. I did watch my mom, but my mom did not have a traditional role in our home growing up. There were like that's a whole nother show for a whole nother day. So my mom's role was not very traditional. My grandmother, her role was not very traditional in her home. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of things of just figuring it out, like put some stuff together and figure it out. I did watch television programs, and I was just kind of like, oh, when I grow up, this is the kind of, this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to be Claire Huxtable. I'm going to have it all. I'm going to have the career and just kind of coming up with stuff and putting all this stuff together. And then church happened. And it was like, okay, so then I could see, right? So then I could see, okay, this. So when I did get married, my role kind of was something that we kind of created together. We kind of discussed it together, and we figured out what works for us, and what worked for his family may not have, when he was growing up, may not be the things that work, because I grew up differently. My household was a little different. So I saw different things, and we had to kind of pave our own way and create what our roles were going to look like in our home together. And over time, we changed it. Some things just, it was like, okay, that was nice for those first 5 years. So now we need to talk about this, and we got to do something just a little bit different, just to make things work, so that we're each comfortable in our roles and we're each comfortable in the things that we're doing. So it was kind of a combination of things, and we found our way. But there was no set in stone way of doing it. He didn't come into the marriage saying, this is the way my mom did it, and this is how you have to do it. And I didn't come in saying, well, this is what I saw, and this is what, this. It was just kind of like, let's make our own traditions, let's make our own roles, and let's make it work for our family. Because I can tell Tangela all day long what I think she should be doing in her home, But that may not be the business at her house. That may not be how this thing should really go in her house, because her and her husband are two different people than me and my husband. So it was just kind of us putting it together and making sure it worked for us.
And I would have to echo everything you said. I definitely, came up in a very non-traditional sense of the word. And then, like you said, church happened for me too. And then I saw some different things. I will say, the only thing I will say, a lot of what I saw growing up didn't fit my personality, because I've always been like, more of an outspoken person. Like, I have to be heard. Like, just get me out, and then, we can do whatever, but you have to hear me. So like, a lot of what I saw, I was like, oh no, that's not for me. That's not for me. Oh, I'll never be that. Like, so, it was definitely a figuring out for me, just, oh, well, I'll take this little bit. And, I'll take this little bit. And it was like, oh, I really like that. She's so sweet. Bless her heart. But that's just not me. Like, it was just because of my personality, I definitely picked up pieces from here and there. And then a lot of trial and error. You try this, it's like, that didn't really work. And then you try something else. So yeah, I definitely had a mix of stuff too. Ashley said, you're not allowed to be a flawed woman. Honey, we all flawed women. Like, all of us, we already all flawed. I mean, do we feel like, I know, like for me, even though I know that I'm flawed, I feel like you always feel like I can't drop the ball. Like, I gotta try to, the goal is always not to drop the ball, no matter how flawed you are. But the reality is, we're all flawed. That's just the nature of being human. So, right.
Yeah. Right.
So, and the reality is sometimes you're going to drop that ball.
Right. And then you're going to cry and you're going to stomp your feet.
But the kicker is you can drop the ball and still win the game.
Yeah, girls say that.
You can still win the game.
Girl. Yes.
He said, love you. Oh, thank you. I guess you mean my earrings, right? Says, do the fathers offer help? Absolutely. The fathers on this panel. So
definitely.
We can definitely talk about our men, but we won't put down other men. My husband, absolutely. He helps. Even when the kids were small, he used to dress them. They looked like they got dressed in the dark, but they would be clean.
They was dressed, right?
Right. So yeah, our the men in our lives absolutely help. And I can say that confidently with everybody that's on here. She said, a woman in any race look to hold the family together. It's looked okay. That's why self-care for women is so important, because a burnout could cause physical. Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Tiffany. This sister.
That's my baby sister.
Hi, sister. Thanks for joining us tonight. But you're absolutely right. And as a woman, and that's the thing, when you're down, when you're burnt out, when you're worn out, it's kind of like, chaos ensues. Chaos ensues. Like, things will run on, but it's because you're the balance kind of your house. When you're down, or when you have let yourself run all the way to the ground, it's like the balance is off.
And then one thing I want to mention, even about self-care, a couple things. Self-care is more than just, a kind of a day to yourself, bubble baths and, old movies. Sometimes self-care is saying, I can't do this.
Right.
And I need to delegate this. No. Self-care is taking care of yourself. And sometimes that means managing the expectations of others and managing your workload so you're not running on empty, but you're allowing yourself, to say, although I could take it on, I'm going to let somebody else do that. Mm-hmm. And even if it doesn't come out exactly how I would do it, it's still going to be done. And the world won't end. So I think we have to be more intentional when it comes to setting and managing those expectations, even if we have to change it from what we used to be. Because I always talk with Ephraim, I'm different than the person I was when we first got married, because I didn't have kids. Now I have kids, advanced, in my career, experience different things. So the expectation has to change. And I think it's my responsibility to manage that for other people so that I don't fall into, that trying to live up to other people's expectation.
Yeah.
And like Tangela said, as far as delegating to other people when you can. I was telling the ladies earlier that my son was cooking tonight, and thankfully I didn't hear any, fire alarms go off. But that's part of it. They're old enough they've always done their own little breakfast or made a sandwich for lunch, but okay, you can cook a dinner now. So that's what we're doing now. We're trying to get them to cook dinner. So when we get off, we'll see how it all turned out. But both of them are now, and this is recent. This is within the last couple of weeks, where they've both, they've been assigned a day to cook dinner.
I like that.
Last week was a little, we ate something, but so
you
but
survived.
It's taken a little bit off me so that everybody can have a meal, as opposed to when I didn't feel like cooking before. It was like, well, you're on your own tonight, find what you could find. And so, but now if you take, we gave everybody a night, and so now everybody will eat a whole meal, and we'll see what happens. I'll report back to you next week.
Way to go, Tyson. Ephraim said Claire did hold it down, family, career, marriage, and never looked stressed. Must be TV.
Must be.
Claire had a staff of writers too.
Right.
She has the writers, she had producers to help manufacture that.
Drop the ball and still win. Look at him giving his wife kudos. Oh, he must be talking about me, talking about him dressing the kids. I let the kids have freedom. Yeah, they definitely have freedom, for real. Okay. Oh, wow, that's awesome. I guess he's talking about Tyson cooking. But yeah, over time, we have to be the captains of our ships. So, our roles, we have to tailor make things to work for us so we don't get burned out. So we're not juggling 30 balls, at a time unnecessarily. That delegating is important. And no. And I know, especially when you have kids, sometimes it's like you feel like you can't say no.
Right.
But I realize that's us though. Like we do that to ourselves.
You're right.
They'll do those crocodile tears, especially if you got anybody with a daughter. Y'all know about them tears. But I realize with my daughter, who does not take no well at all, and I'm sure she gets that from her mother. I don't cry, but she, as soon as her tears dry up, she's all right. It don't kill her. It does not kill her to hear the word no. And I think the nurturer in us sometimes makes us feel like we can't say no. Yeah, like we.
But always... that makes me question, because I'm guilty of that. The kids will guilt me into everything. But I'm wondering, what type of example am I showing my daughter as she grows into adulthood and motherhood, that you always have to be the one to make everybody else happy. Because and it's small things, like even if I have a cookie, even if I bought the whole family cookies, if I have the last one, where'd you get that from? But then she won't come out and ask for it, but she'll just kind of look, and then she'll kind of circle and do this like little hang her head thing, and I'm like, here, have it. But then at some point I said, at what point do I tell her, this is something that's just for me. Mommy took care of everybody else. Everybody else got a cookie. This is mommy cookie. And you just have to be okay with that. So you're challenging me to be more.
definitely have to do that. My husband and I, over the years, we would do things intentionally that were just, it was ours and it was for us. To the point where the kids would recognize, okay, well, mom bought this, that means it's for her. Dad brought this, that means it's for him. And they knew. And then it became almost like when they were trying to think of something special to do for us as kids, they would go and buy the chocolate chip cookies because they knew that that's she always buys chocolate chip cookies for herself. So let's go buy her a pack of chocolate chip cookies. Happy birthday, mom. And you know, when they're 5, you're kind of like, thanks, you got me cookies for my birthday. but it was what they saw, and they knew that there were moments that was just for us. It was something that was this mom's, and we don't touch it. If company comes over, company needs to know, do not touch that chocolate ice cream. That belongs to my mom. You can have the strawberry one, you can have this one, you can have that one, but that one, that's mom's.
But even in that, that's teaching boundaries,
Right?
You know, and it's teaching them to say, you know, you can have access to this, but you can't have access to that. And so I think that's showing, you know, a good lesson that they can learn at a young age, that, you know, you can't give everybody access to everything. You have to, you know, set those boundaries and set limitations.
Right. Anointed and blessed. Thanks for joining us tonight. She said, pray and ask for strength and guidance from God. Her son is 40, her daughter's 25, both saved, educated, and successful. All right. Listen, those some nice ages. I'm so far from that. 25 would be nice for me right now, but
I have a 27-year-old, so I'm nearing the area. We're 27 down to 18.
Listen, I would take an 18. You know, we just kind of crawling almost, you know, right about to reach over into the teen. You know, I got like pre-teens. So yeah, we're definitely doing the whole boundary thing. Now the no's come easier. Like, you know, and I'm like, oh, you big no.
It's hard when they little.
Yeah,
it's hard when they grown up too, and they still be asking for stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll work it out. $400, okay, give me a couple of days, I got you.
Right, and they know to come to mommy though. You ever notice that?
That's
like
true.
Come to mommy with the foolery. Like my kid, for real, like Anthony could be eating something, it could whatever it is. They won't ask him because they know that he quick with the no. But I could be eating something. It could be my first meal of the day. They think they're supposed to have some too. Like, it's amazing. They know how to get that mommy button going. Tiffany said, I'm only an aunt, so I could definitely teach y'all to say no. Right. Aunties have all the liberty. You get to spoil them up and send them home. Get to drop by, be fabulous, and leave.
Be fabulous.
So when I was just a mere auntie, I cried and I was praying and fasting and, oh Lord, I need my own. And now look at me. What he said? Gotta be quick with the no. Right. Daddies, you know, that's another thing. Like that just shows the difference in the roles of the parents.
That's true.
Daddies can say no and they're like, whatever.
Without even thinking about it.
Right. And as a mother, like, you know, the first time you say no, you be like holding back your own tears. Like, oh my God, I'm so
their entire world.
Yeah, but fathers, you know, they get to do things different. So I was having a conversation with Anthony this week, and it kind of led to this topic. I was saying to him how women, you know, when you get married, you're an adult. So you've already spent, I don't know, let's just say 20, 21 years of your life. You've developed your own ideas. You know, you've thought about what you want your future to look like, what you want your life to look like, all of that. And then let's just say you get married at 23. So I'm 23. And for 23 years, you know, I've taken care of myself. I've decided what I want to do, who I want to be, where I want to go. When you get married at 23, and instantly society dictates that is supposed to change. Everything that you were before is supposed to change when you get married. As a woman, It's like you're expected to just give it all up and adapt to some other person's way of thinking, their idea of what the future should look like, their likes, their wants, their dreams. And that's kind of how I came up with the topic, because I was like, I think, women are underrated. Like, as much as we bring and as much as we sacrifice, I don't think that's ever truly appreciated or acknowledged, because you go into marriage and the man is supposed to be the head, and and instantly you kind of like lay down all of what you wanted for yourself to become this whole other thing. And sometimes it goes very unappreciated. Like sometimes and I don't even think people really acknowledge it. It just becomes, oh, my wife would do that. How many times has your husband agreed that you're going to do something? And you be like, you didn't even ask me. Oh, sure, we'll be there. But you didn't even ask me. And although, it may not be big things, and it may not be, like you're totally disregarded, but, women, we make a lot of sacrifices. And I think sometimes that people don't acknowledge, all that a woman sacrifices or gives up to, step into a different role, to be that support system for someone else, for a husband, or just to have kids, the sacrifice that comes along with that. He said, I thought about it and I still want my chicken. What?
You don't want to share with
the
kids.
I was like, what did I say about chicken? I said, what do you think of that? Like when you really think about, like how the dynamic goes, what do you think? Like when it's said that way, like, go ahead.
I think it's there, but I think it's ultimately a choice of if you want to, or if you choose to feed into that stereotype. I think it depends on the individual, because you can have society or even family pushing you to fit a certain mold or role, but if that's not you, that's not you. And I take, for example, the first lady of the church. Typically, the first lady of the church is usually the leader of like the women's ministry. But I heard somebody say, what if that's not her role? But because traditionally, this is what a first lady does, then this is what you should do. And now she done messed up the whole women department because that's not her function. So I think we have to be careful about fitting into molds that contradicts how and what God created us to do and be. And even inside of a marriage, I believe that there are, God created roles and, just for the operation of a family, but there's no two marriages are alike. Right. So I can't even, my marriage is different from my parents. So, even though that was my first example, we're two different people and our marriage is completely different. So I think, it's up to us to either conform to those society norms or to create something that works for you, your family, your marriage.
I was, yeah, I agree.
Uh-oh.
I know, I agree. You're right.
I don't know. I don't feel like I made a lot of sacrifices as far as laying down who I was in my marriage. I was very into like starting my career at that time, and like that was a big role and a big focus, and I don't think I had to give up any of that as a result of being married. So I don't think that was really my experience. Although when it came to being a mother, that's when I had to kind of pivot and make sacrifices and changes, because what can I do? I gotta carry it. I gotta push it out. I gotta breastfeed it. You know what I mean? So there was no choice in that. There wasn't really so much that he could jump in and, listen, if he could have carried either one of them, that would have been a big help. But but like there's no choice in that. But but there's definitely sacrifices made, even when it comes to just your body. You sacrifice that, because some people they don't want to sacrifice their shape and everything, but that's part of it. That's part of something that that going in that you have to give up. You're not gonna have that hourglass shape. Some people bounce right back, and I did after the first one. That second one though, not so much.
Right. That first one is okay.
I bounced right back. Things came right back together.
There's no bounce.
Second one.
There's no bounce.
No
the bounce has died at the second one. You got to have some real good overactive genes to get. I don't. Whatever it is, I don't have it. I can tell you that.
Second one was.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely sacrifice there.
Right. And I mean, I think it's not always, big things. Like I said, for me, because I am, very opinionated, I had to do a whole lot of biting on my tongue in the early years. It was really hard because I'm like I said, I was raised in a very non-traditional, dynamic in my house. So it was kind of like, we doing what? Well, I don't feel like doing that. Like one of those types of things where I don't think like that. It's not, that's not what I'm accustomed to. So it was a lot of swallowing hard, biting my tongue in the beginning, because, there was always that part of me that realized that wasn't going to lead to a successful situation, constantly always butting heads or always, at each other's throats or whatever. So I did realize that. So, I mean, it did, maybe it's a bad word, tame me or cause me to tame myself some, and be a little calmer than where I was at the time, which, inevitably was a good thing. It was a good sacrifice to make, but it was, in the beginning, it felt like a sacrifice, having to not be as vocal. He said, were you taught that your role was equal to or different from your husband or man?
I was equal to.
Well, in church, I was taught, I feel like in church, they teach you your role is not equal to. I don't feel like in church, once I was a little older, I didn't feel like I was taught my role was equal to. Prior to that, I don't even know what the whole dynamic would have really looked like. Like, untraditional is kind of like a nice way of saying, kind of chaotic. So,
yeah.
I don't know what role was where. It was just stuff happening. Yeah. So I by the time I was taught anything, which was, once we got into church or whatever, I felt like I was taught that my role was less than the husband's.
I think for me, I was, the display was that I was equal to. I never really understood the traditional roles because everything wasn't really set up. It was kind of more like the untraditional, which equals chaotic, is what I would definitely go with growing up for me. And the imagery that I saw behind that was that I can do everything. I can do whatever because I run this. And so I grew up with the mentality of, you get a house, you take care of stuff, you run it, like you make it work. And then when I began to kind of formulate my own opinion of things and see different things in different places. So you go to your friend's house and you're like, oh, okay, I see. You go over to, you know, somebody from school's house and you're like, oh, that's how y'all do things in your house? Oh, okay, I see. And then church happens and you see all these people in the church world and it's like, oh, okay. And then they have scripture that goes with it and you're like, oh, that's a whole new world. Okay, about that. Let me put all this together and make something of it. So it was kind of, you know, nothing really taught. It was just kind of out there on display, and whatever was displayed is kind of what you formulated to be the lesson in it. And then it was kind of like, oh, I know what I don't want and I know what I'm not going to do. And so here it is. And then husband comes walking in, or guy comes walking in that's later to become husband. And it's like, okay, so these are the thoughts you have. These are the thoughts I have. Let's put it all together and make this thing called our marriage.
All right. Tiffany said, how do you maintain your identity in your marriage when your family, church, etc., is telling you how you're supposed to be as a wife? I will say in the beginning, it can be hard if you listen to all the outside voices and people tell you, oh, what a woman's supposed to be and the Bible say and whatever. Like for me, once I started praying about it and understanding, you know, some things for myself, it became easier. Like I think accepting who I was and that God made me uniquely different and to be myself and to be married to that person, which in and of itself looks like something different than the man you're married to. It was easier, but I think that as long as you're listening and heavily influenced by outside voices and this person and that person, and you're trying to look like what other people tell you you should be, I think it's going to be a struggle. But that's with anything. That's with, you know, if you're married, that's with being single. You know, if you base it on outside opinion and what other people or society tells you you should be, I feel like it's always going to be a struggle. Because people, you know, everybody has an opinion.
Now, I do want to caution, though. I think there is a, if it's done right, you can have people who can counsel you. And I do believe in, you know, mentoring and someone who will not inflict their belief, but who will guide you back to the Bible. And because even through the word of God, we understand that we are unique. You know, even the Bible tells us we're fearfully and wonderfully made. So if I'm that unique, then clearly I shouldn't have to act, be, dress, look like everybody else. But I don't think we should discount wisdom because, you know, if someone's been married for a considerable amount of time, or if they have a successful godly marriage, then there is something that they can share. You know, but not to force you to say, no, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to get up, you know, when he get up and you're supposed to have this, you know. I'm gonna tell my mama. So I FaceTime my mom last week before my husband got home, and I just had her on FaceTime and I was cooking and everything. And she was like, so Ephraim on his way home? I was like, yeah, he on his way home. She said, you ain't gonna do nothing with your hair before he get home? I was like, what do you mean? You know, this is what he gets. You know, I'm trying to prepare something for him to eat, and now I gotta comb my hair. So, but you know, we were, you know, it was in jest, but you know, I appreciate the wisdom of, you know, pull yourself together, girl. You know, so I appreciate the wisdom. But I don't think that was her telling me you need to fall into a certain, you know, rule. So I think, you know, we have to have our own sense of discernment to know when someone is pouring life into us and they're genuinely concerned about us, and when, you know, they just running their mouth.
Yeah. Most definitely. I love that though. I love that she just like, you know, go fix yourself.
Yeah, she was like, you ain't got a headband and nothing. I was like, it's just a ponytail. Just like pull it together.
Well, yeah, oh, look at that.
Oh,
Right, that's so sweet. But I mean, I think it is always good to have, um, somebody that can speak into your life, you know, um, truth and love. It's always good to have somebody that you can look to, whatever title you want to give them, whatever. And discernment is very important because you can't just, oh well, I know you all my life. Everybody doesn't mean you well. Everybody doesn't, and sometimes people don't have the tools to help you.
Right.
Like, just because you 50 and you've been married for 35 years does not mean you have the tools to help me. So I mean, discernment goes a long way. You have to know who you're listening to and know the intention behind their words, and really get to know people's heart before you just take their words at face value. But yes, it is always good to listen to someone. But we always know that praying works. God will lead you to the right person to talk to. God will lead you to the information that you need to get to where you need to be. It could be a book, it could be somebody online that you listen to. There's so many avenues that's available to be helpful to whatever you're aspiring to. So I think, if you're open and willing and looking for, that voice of reason or that voice of guidance, I definitely believe that, you'll find it if you're open to that. So, if that's like your heart's desire, but I just wouldn't be listening to anybody. So, that's always something to be cautious of, who you're listening, who's in your ear, and the motive behind their words.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies, did y'all have anything finally you wanted to add? Any last words?
Shout out to my husband.
Oh, ain't that so nice? So we want to thank all you guys for coming in the room. Thank everyone that was in the comments. We appreciate your input. We appreciate the questions. Ephraim, you even were real good tonight. You didn't even get real petty tonight. So I appreciate it, brother. I thank you. You always have great questions. So, Tiffany, thanks. It's so good to see you again. I know you've been here a couple of times. I appreciate the comments. But thank you guys so much tonight for joining us. We're on every Tuesday at 8:30. We have us beautiful women on talking, sharing our experiences, sharing sharing what we know and our hearts with you. Elder McNair, hey, thanks for joining us. So what was I going to say? I don't know, just that quick. I lost my last thought. I thought I had a great one. Okay, so I don't have a great thought to end the show tonight. So have a great night. Join us again next Tuesday. Let me to my...